Hi, hello everybody. I am super excited that you get to join me today. Thank you for being here on today's episode of Sessions with Ella. Well, in the last video, I did try to help you arrive at the decision to either make a career switch or not make a career switch. So today I want to take it a step further. For those who are interested in making a career switch, I mean, like after all those conversations we had in the last video, you realized it's time for you to make a career switch, but you do not know how to take the first step. I'm going to guide you and walk you through how to do that, and also share some of my experiences. And I'll make recommendations from my experience as well, and how I navigated a career switch from being a marketing manager to being a software engineer. So I'm gonna share that with you, and if you're interested in that content, please stay put, do not go anywhere. All I need you to do is to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you are in the know every time I post a content. I also want you to like this video so that YouTube can recommend to so many other people. The first thing you want to do is a self-assessment. Just because you do not want to start a journey that's stuck in the middle of that journey, you want to make sure that you are sure what is driving you to make this decision. Okay, do a self-assessment. Are you being driven by financial consideration? What is most important to you on your career? I know that a lot of us, for some of us, we have kids, we have families, some of us are single, so that consideration will be different for each person. The reason you are doing this assessment is so that you have all your reasons why. The journey is going to be tough. I can tell you that for free. The journey of making a career switch is going to be tough. It might not be a walk in the park. So, if you are not clear on what is driving you and why you are making this decision, you might fall along the way. If you're not sure of what is driving you, the level of your motivation might not be able to keep you for many times to come, and in the face of the overwhelming challenges that might be on the way as you're trying to navigate this career switch. So do not rush into it. Make sure you do these assessments. In fact, if you have to write it somewhere in your house, in your office, write it. Whatever you have to do, make sure you do it, just so that at the time when you are ready to make the move, you are making that move from a place of deep conviction and a place of superior motivation. Okay, second thing you need to do is research. I know that part of you stumbling on this video is research for you as well, right? But I really need for you to research. By the time, you guys, if you're just joining, I did a video earlier on where I talked about the top 20 jobs that are in demand globally. I talked about top 20 jobs in demand globally and how some of these jobs have been predicted to grow exponentially over the next decade. Those are the kind of research I'm talking about. You want to make sure that you are making a decision to go with a particular career from a place of knowledge. You do adequate research about the skill sets that are required on that job. You look at your own skills, look at what is missing, and then you already have an idea of what you need to do to bridge that gap. Whether it's an education, whether it's a training, whatever it is. But first of all, you need to identify, make sufficient research about the industry, about the career prospects, about what it's like beginning, right? About the job market for that particular skill you're trying to get, for that particular career you're trying to switch into. You want to make sure that you have done satisfactory level research using the instrumentality of LinkedIn, of Forbes, of Harvard Business Reviews, of Google searches, of ChatGPT, whatever you need to make sure that you do qualitative research about that career. Make sure that you have done it so that you are filled and armed with sufficient knowledge as you are going in. Because somehow when you go into, you probably want to venture into a career path only to get into that career path And by the time you have spent years or months reskilling and upskilling, you get to that career path and realize that it's not even a career where you can grow. You probably do one thing, go to the next level, and that's all. There's no director level exposure. It's not rich. You might just realize that the job is not even rich. After you have done, you're like, why did I do this? I just wasted my time. In order to make sure that you're not filled with regrets, by the time you have finally taken that step, make sure that you are armed with adequate research concerning that career path. Another thing you need to do is to identify all the transferable skills that you currently have in your current career path that can be transferred into the new career path. The reason why this is very important is because there is something called imposter syndrome on a new role, in a new job, especially in a place where you're starting afresh, for those who might be starting afresh. And then you get into this career path, put in all the work, and then when you resume, you begin to feel like, do I really belong here? There are so many people who know so much about this career, about this job, and I'm barely scratching the surface in terms of my knowledge level. Imposter syndrome is so real, and it can actually throw you off balance, and it won't make you effective on your job. But if you can identify all the transferable skills that you currently have that you know will be required regardless in the new role, you can begin a new role or a new journey from a place of experience rather than starting from point zero, starting from scratch. I think it was one of my mentors who posted on LinkedIn that when you fail at something and you want to do it again, you're not starting from point zero, you're actually starting from experience, and experience is huge. If you can list out all the transferable skills that you can take from this career to the next one, it gives you some level of confidence. When it gets to interview level for the new career, you already have so much to offer just because you know that there's so much that you're doing already that you can transfer. You're able to have quality conversations. You're able to drive high-level conversations at interviews, even on the job, whether you know what you're expected to do 100% or not. You know that there are some skills you already have that is not a waste. You're still going to use it in the new role, and so you do not begin to feel out of place. But if you have not identified all of that, when you get into that new career, there are high chances that it will be over before you even had the chance to start. When you're going into a venture with a defeated mentality already, once that happens, you're not going to go far. But if you want to go far, you need to start from a place of confidence. You need to start from a place of knowing that even though I'm new in this field, there's so much I already know. There's so much skill I already have that I can begin to utilize on the job and begin to add value to that organization. In that way, you're starting from a place of confidence and you're setting yourself up for success. Next thing you need to do is to get the necessary education and the necessary training. And I believe that this is what usually causes, this is usually the deal breaker for a lot of people. This is usually the deciding factor for so many persons. A lot of people stay back, look at how much it's going to cost to probably begin that process of reskilling, and then they chicken out of the process. And then they get scared out of the process, and then they drop off along the line, and they do not take a chance at their dreams. I just want to encourage you today. If you are able to do as much research that is required of you, you might realize that you're not even going to spend a dime to get that skill. In my case, it's not like I even did a lot of research, but I stumbled on an information that proved to change my life for good, because I was even paid for the boot camp that I did. I was paid for the boot camp. I paid no dime to get that knowledge, and there was a guaranteed job at the end of my training. What else would I ask for? I'm not even taking that privilege for granted, but I know that so many people might not have access to facilities like this in your location. Some people have access to this facility, but because they didn't look enough, or they probably didn't look at the right places. They didn't stumble on that information. In another video towards the middle of June, when I know that it's time for that application to open up, I'm going to do a video on that bootcamp that I did for people that are based in Canada, so that you can take a chance at your dream and also participate. Perhaps with the bootcamp that I did, it's going to add so much value to you. There are so many bootcamps that are free of charge. I know that even in Canada here, aside from the one I did, I know so many bootcamps that tries to get you into the tech space and you don't get to pay anything. Some of them might not have guaranteed job at the end, but you actually don't get to pay. There are some where you have to pay. I mean, I'm going to give an example of my husband, for example. An eye doctor that came in from Nigeria into Canada and needs a couple of years before he is able to get back into the health space. And then he sat down and he's like, do I even really want this anymore, when I can actually get some other skills that will pay me so much as well? Well, while that is in the conversation, he's investing 3,000 Canadian dollars to try to get another tech skill and then find his way into the tech space. Can you see that? That takes courage. It takes a lot of courage for anybody to be able to do that. And that's the kind of courage that I want everyone that is watching me right now to begin to have. Look for boot camps where even if you're asked to pay $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, but at least you can spread it over a period of time if the money is the problem. If you will not be willing to bring out $5,000 to just do the training at once, then look for people who maybe will take $500 from you monthly. It might be sacrifice you need to make now, but imagine what will happen to you if you actually take a chance at that dream. $500, if you're not careful, will be spent on groceries or on clothing. Before you know it, it's gone. Why don't you invest it in something that will add value to you? Within the 6 months or the 3 months or the 1 year where you're trying to get that needed education, you might realize that you have to forego a lot of things. You might realize that you have to defer you have to defer a lot of things that you are hungry for. But I believe it will be worth the sacrifice at the end of the day. There are boot camps that are free. There are those that would cost you a token. There are certifications that you can do. There are some of the certifications that are so cheap. I know that Google Project Management on Coursera goes for about $57. But if you see that 100 hours Google Project Management certificate, if that course is so rich that if you actually follow through, you would have finished a whole project of your own. But it's just $57. You can take that and then it helps you to have a very good conversation at an interview, and then you get into the project management space, either as a project manager or maybe not as a project manager entry level, but maybe as a project coordinator or an assistant project manager or something. But at least your feet is already in the project management space. There are some that you will need formal education for. If it's a blue collar job, somebody will probably tell you, oh, pay me this certain amount, I'm going to teach you the skill. And I'm also going to teach you how to be profitable in the skill. Always look for opportunity where you can spread the payments over a period of time so that it doesn't get overwhelming, especially if you do not have a strong financial base. For some, it's education that they need to get. But the truth is, if you also do your research very well, and if you also prepare for opportunities very well, you could get 100% scholarship to go do your program. There are so many people who are on a fully funded scholarship, master's program, bachelor's program. All it took was sitting down, researching, putting in the work. You keep searching until you find an agency or a school that will be willing to give you 100% scholarship. There are some of them where all they need you to do is to write a compelling essay. An essay that drives somebody to want to make an investment in you. And when they make that investment in you, you are already set up for success. There are so many diverse ways to go about getting the education and training that you need for your new skill. But the bottom line and the underlying important thing for all the different ways of getting that education is that you have to be ready. You have to be sacrificial. You have to be sacrificial. You have to be ready to, you have to put in the work. You have to put in the hours. So, even if it means, it's called delayed gratification. It might cost you good time with family, but it's just for a while. It might cost you the time that you would have spent with friends, but it's just for a while. I remember my pastor used to say years ago, I learned so much from that phrase he always uses. And when I was in my lowest low moment, those times, that's the one thing that always kept me going. I remember he would always say that before a butterfly buds into a butterfly and begins to fly beautifully, it will spin itself in a cocoon. It will spin itself in that cocoon, and then as a caterpillar or something, you know, the cocoon, it's the butterfly that is inside still, but it's just its quiet moment just before it blossoms. And then it spins itself in that cocoon for a while, and then in the fullness of time, and when, you know, it's in the due course of time and the fullness of time, it flies out beautifully and colorfully. So whatever it will take you to spin yourself in a cocoon, either for a year or for a couple of months or for a couple of years, spin yourself in that cocoon. It might cost you money, and so you will have to live, you know, below your normal standard of living for a couple of months. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it for a glorious future. And that is why a lot of research needs to have preceded everything that you have done. Just so that by the time you're spinning yourself in a cocoon and giving and putting in all the work for you to actually blossom later and get into that new skill, you would have been doing it from a place of knowledge. I do not want you to invest all that energy in the wrong skill. I do not want you investing all that energy in the wrong skill. And then at the end of the day, you come out and you're like, oh my God, I just gave 3 months of my time, 6 months of my time to this thing, and it ended up being nonsense. That is why the research is important first. Okay, you are at it, taking that training and doing that education, you need to begin to network. The people in that training with you, for me, are your first point of contact. They are the first set of persons you need to network with maximally. Because everyone trying to get that new skill would be at different level when it comes to different level of competency for that skill. There are people who are in that class with you, but they know way better than you do. There are people who do not know as much as you don't know. It's in so many levels, but you need to make sure that you are building quality relationships and networking with this set of persons. Because at the end of the training, some of them would even get jobs before you. And remember that in Canada, referral is a big deal. Not just Canada. In Canada, in the US, globally, even in Nigeria, like globally, I know that when referrals are a big deal, because it takes a lot for me as a professional to stake my neck and my reputation for somebody else to say, I'm recommending this person for this job, I think they are excellent. That's a lot actually. I'm actually putting my reputation on the line. Because if that person comes in and maybe doesn't deliver or does something that, if it does anything negative, it will rub off on me as well. And so when people go out of their way to make referrals for you, it speaks volume. But people would also only be able to make referrals for you when there is an air of confidence around you. At least this air of confidence in your ability to deliver, and you are able to express all that when you have had the opportunity to network with people. LinkedIn is there for you guys. There's like so much there's so much happening on LinkedIn. There are so many events. I remember when I newly landed Canada and I I was just going on LinkedIn and I found this event and I attended and I built some of my highly coveted relationships in my professional life right now. I at least in Canada, because I mean back at home I had so many mentors and people that I really had in my space that also contributed to everything that I am. But I mean, like in Canada, I built some solid relationship. I'm like, oh, people don't even know. Do you know you can even go on Eventbrite? Yeah, when you go on Eventbrite, and there are so many different kinds of events happening. Some of them are completely free. It's just an opportunity to network. You need to network with people. You need to show up. Even if it's virtual coffee, you just want to have coffee virtually, whatever you need to do, by all means, you have to. Just so that now they are going into a new skill, at least you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people at the least. In fact, I'm giving you your target on your networking. At least 10 people. Please do way more. The more the better, the more the merrier. But at least 10 people within that space of the new career that you are embarking on. You have had conversations with them. You have asked the right questions, setting yourself up for success. That is what you're doing every time you take networking very seriously. And when it comes to navigating a career switch, the role of networking cannot be overemphasized. Okay? Prioritize getting practical knowledge. If you see an opportunity of an internship, embrace it. Embrace it. The internship might tell you they'll pay you stipend. Embrace it. Get that experience. When you're about to apply, regardless of where you were in your previous career, whether you're a senior manager in your previous career, once it's time to, make that switch into a new career, you need to be open-minded. You need to be willing to apply for entry-level positions again. Let me tell you the truth. A manager who is a very good manager and has been a good manager all their lives, they know everything they need to do to navigate that entry-level position very fast. That's just the secret. So even if you find yourself in an entry-level role, somehow you will just know that you've been armed already with almost everything you need to be able to skillfully and gracefully navigate the entry-level position. And in no time, even if it takes you 1 year, it takes you 2 years, if it takes you 3 years or 4 years, you will still leave that entry-level position and get back to where you were originally. And so you should also be willing to be open to entry-level positions, which is also why you need to kind of make sure, especially if you have family demands going on, make sure that the skill you're trying to get, the entry-level positions are also at least comfortably paying, so that you are fine before you begin to navigate your way into the next level of your career. But you have to prioritize getting that skill through the instrumentality of the entry-level positions, as well as unpaid internships or stipend paid internships, whatever comes your way. Remember that it's only for a period. When a butterfly eventually buds and flies away so colorfully and beautifully, you do not remember it was in a cocoon. You are just taken away and you're just taking in all the beauty of that butterfly. But there was a spinning period. There was a cocoon period, right? Where you had to stay until it was time. And just see it as that's what this period is about. That's what this period is about. That is what this period is about. And then there's also the part where you should make sure that you're working with targeted resume, cover letter. There's no one fits all for resumes. I think there was a time when I was working with that arrogance where I just felt like, see, my experience is so rich and it can literally be all encompassing. I think I had that arrogance for a while. And then there was also this little arrogance I had where they're like, oh, your resume has to be 2 pages. But I'm like, but my experience is so wide. 2 pages is very small for me. I feel like my resume should be like 3-4 pages, if not 5. Can you imagine that kind of can you imagine that kind of arrogance? Why? Why are you arrogant about the obvious? It's a standard, it's a standard. Find out the standard in your country. In Canada, it's 2-page resume, whether you like it or not. No matter the amount of experience you have, keep your resume 2 pages, please, right? You have to make sure, and then you have to make sure that you're using targeted resumes for every job you need to apply for. Recreate the resume using all the job description as described in the job description, right? Targeted resume, you guys. Maybe I'm going to do a detailed job on this one. I think I'll do a detailed video on getting a job, doing interviews, creating your resume. I'm going to find another sprint period of my videos to talk about that, because today I really want to talk about reskilling, upskilling, changing career, settling in on the job. That's what I want to do this week. Next week, I'm going to go into personal finance again. I'll do a bit of budgeting. I'll show you how I even budget my own finances. I will talk a bit about savings and how we can optimize our savings, right? I'll talk a bit about investments. I'll do that a bit next week. So maybe in another sprint like that, I'm going to find time to focus on maybe new graduates or people who need jobs, basically, even if you're experienced and trying to get another job, you're trying to settle in a new country, people who are basically starting afresh. Maybe I'll give some perspective when it comes to job interviews. I'll give some perspective when it comes to resume building and all of that. But I just want to tie this last point, because it's also important when you're changing your career. You actually have to work with really targeted resumes. Resumes that it is what it is, right? What is in your resume is what is required for the job. It just increases your chances of getting an opportunity at the table. And once you sit at the table, you get an opportunity in a room, then you can begin to talk about how to maximize that opportunity. But first, you have to get in a room. Everybody first needs an opportunity. And that is what a targeted resume does for you. You guys, I want to wrap up this video, but I just will not fail to tell you that at this time, when you're trying to navigate a career switch, you really need to be resilient. You need to be resilient. Sometimes you'd have to look at the mirror, remind yourself of who you've been. You have to look at the mirror, remind yourself of all the investments that God has made in you. Remind yourself of how smart you are, how intelligent you are, how precious you are. It took Jesus to die for you. You have to look at the mirror to remind yourself that you have demonstrated certain skills in certain capacity. So regardless of how low you might feel, because you are in that period of spinning yourself in a cocoon and trying to navigate a career switch, regardless of how painful the experience would be, stay put. Stay put. Wherever your strength fails you, run back to God and pray for strength. He gives strength, I promise you. Just go back to Him and ask for strength afresh. Let Him know, my strength has failed me at this time. I need you. You will see that it's like going to refuel your car when you're out of gas. You will actually come back stronger, and then you will have sufficient grace to stay put. Remember that even before the blessing of childbirth comes the labor pain, the labor pangs. But no matter how painful it gets, you stay there. You try until you push that blessing out. I can assure you guys that if you can just take this bold step. And then I think the final thing I want to say before I go is, if it's possible for you to hold your current job while you are navigating all this, all the better. All the better. If you are not in a situation where you absolutely have to leave your job to begin that boot camp, then you have a better opportunity than every other person. You stay on your job, but every day after your job, rather than spending the time, on some movies or spending the time with some friends, you might need to stay back. Continue to read, continue to go for the courses, continue to do all that you must do. And then once you are done and you are ready to begin to look for the job, you can then begin to look for the job even while you're in your current job. So what will happen is by the time you're leaving your current job, you're moving into something way higher, more like a 400% increase in your current earning. You've just changed your life and your family's life. You know what I'm saying, right? So that's where I'm gonna end it today. Thank you so much for being with me today, everyone. I really hope that you've been able to pick a thing or two. I really hope that you've been able to learn, or I really hope that you've been able to see perspective. I really hope that you think you can do this. I really hope that you see this opportunity for what it is and you are willing to put in the work until you have gotten that career switch that you want. And here, Ella, I'm wishing you the very, very best as you enact this career switch. I can't wait to share more of my story with you. If you go on my blog, I have a blog where I write extensively about my personal experiences, www.sessionswithella.com. I'm sure that a lot of the stories I'll share, you will gain value from it and you'll get strength from it, and you'll see that I'm really holding your hand in this journey. If you have questions for me, please put it in the comments, okay? If there's any subject you'd like for me to talk about, also put it in the comments. And I'm going to see you on the next episode of Sessions with Ella. Thank you so much for today, you guys. Bye.